So again, today's review is going to be a quick opener of 6.8. So what I've given you are two inequalities. You're going to take these two inequalities and you're going to graph them. Have a seat, please. So we're going to go ahead and graph these two inequalities. What I'd like to see is step 1, according to your notes, says what? When we're graphing inequalities or solving systems using inequalities, what's my first step have to be? Solve for y. So basically meaning that we're going to make sure y is by itself. It's written in slope-intercept form. Is this already written in slope-intercept form?
Yeah, it's called this.
Yeah. So we can go ahead and just start graphing. Okay, so if we're going to just start graphing, I graph slope-intercept form, meaning I graph what first?
2.
The 2. So I look at my coordinate plane, and if I'm going to graph the y-intercept first, which is the 2, do you have a sweatshirt?
Yeah.
Okay.
These desks.
I'm going to go where? Where do I graph it? You said 2, so I go to my origin. Up 2. Okay? Now, what is my slope?
Up 1 over 1.
So when you say up 1 over 1, where am I going up 1 from?
Yeah,
From
2.
the 2.
So I go up 1 from the 2, and then over which direction?
To the right.
To the right. So there's my first point. Now I want to plot 3 points to help my line be more accurate. So I can go ahead and go up 1 over 1 again, but if I want to go and make a point to the left, how am I going to do that?
Let's go down 1 over 1.
What do you mean by down 1 over 1? Over 1 which direction?
Left.
Left. Okay. What kind of line am I going to use? A solid line?
Does anyone have an eraser I can borrow?
Oh, I did, but you said you wouldn't fight me.
Okay. Now, then the last step that I need to do is I need to determine where to shade. Based on my inequality sign, where am I going to shade? What's my inequality sign? What's my inequality sign? Greater than. If it's greater than, where do I shade according to my notes? Say it again.
Above.
Above. Good. Okay. So now I come to my second inequality. It's already set up in slope-intercept form. Y is already solved for. You guys told me this. So I'm going to go ahead and start graphing. What do I graph first?
3.
The 3 on my y-axis for my y-intercept, okay? Then what is the slope of this?
2 over 1.
So that means I go where from the y-intercept?
Up 2
And which direction then?
to the right 1.
Okay.
Then you go down 1 and to the left.
How about down 2 and to the left 1? Okay. What kind of line am I going to have here?
Dotted.
It's going to be a dashed or a dotted.
So what are we doing?
Making the dotted line.
3.
Okay. And then based on my inequality sign, do I shade above or below the purple line? Above. So if you notice, when I shade, not only do I shade above my purple line, but I shade the whole coordinate plane that is above my purple, okay? So anything above this purple line, I have shaded. Okay? So that's your first question. The reason why the desks are cold, I don't have anybody in here second hour.
Why can't I have my head? My ears are cold.
So it gets chilly in here and the desks get cold because no one's sitting in here.
I wear my hood.
Sorry. All right, let's look at the second one here. So for the second one, are both inequalities written in slope-intercept form? No. The bottom one is not. So let's go ahead and write this bottom one in slope-intercept form. In order to write it in slope-intercept form, what do I have to solve for?
Y.
Okay, how do I get the y by itself?
Minus 2x.
Okay, so then it's going to be y is greater than or equal to
Negative 2x plus 2.
Okay, let's go ahead and graph that since we just finished it up. Okay, so when I go to graph this, I start at my origin and do what?
Go up 2.
Okay, plot my first point, and then my slope is going to be...
Go down 2 over to the right 1.
Very good. And what kind of line am I going to graph? A solid or a dashed? Solid. And where am I going to shade this? Above or below based on my inequality sign?
Above and below.
Below. Good. Give you a second to catch up there, okay? I know I went pretty fast. So if you notice, I shaded everything below that boundary line. Okay, so now let's come up to my top inequality here. Y is greater than x minus 4. When I go to graph this, I start at my origin. In which direction do I go?
Down 4.
Down 4. Kind of hard to tell here because I shaded. Okay, and then what's my slope?
1 over 1.
So I go where?
Up 1 to the right 1.
Okay, up 1 to the right 1. What kind of line am I going to draw?
Solid.
Solid or dash?
Or dash.
Double check that, yeah.
I like flip-flops.
Okay, now, based on my inequality sign, it's y is greater. If it's greater, do I shade above or below my line, my boundary line? If it's greater, do I shade above or below? Above. So when I shade above, I have to make sure I'm shading above my whole boundary line, even shading over where I've already shaded before. I'm making sure I shade everything in my coordinate plane that's above that boundary line. Okay? And there it is. Did this seem familiar to you guys? It should. Do you know what this is? The quiz you did yesterday. So hold on to your openers, please.
Oh, yeah.